One performer collapsed mid-act to the sound of everyone clapping for him. These are 30 performers or actors who tragically died on stage, and the world saw it with their own eyes. Subscribe to our channel if you like videos where we debunk the tragedies of the entertainment industry. It's not often we see a heart attack caught on tape, but this is precisely what happened in Zoran's case. Zoltán D., the Hungarian-German performer, collapsed from a heart attack while appearing during a Swedish TV recording session. Many people think he died from foul play, but investigators confirmed it was due to natural causes. This goes to show that, even in someone's death that was so clear on screen, people still love to make conspiracies. But in the background, it was simple. Zoran just died naturally. A prop gun is there for non-destructive purposes. But something dark happened with the very son of Bruce Lee. Brandon Lee was only 28 when he appeared in the film The Crow. He was shooting his scene on March 31st, 1993. Now, we all know that Bruce Lee has revolutionized the world of filmmaking and especially action. But for Brandon Lee, he was looking for something more. He wanted to do roles that his father never did, and he wanted to surpass the fame his father once had. Then came his big chance of starring in the Crow movie. Here, a prop gun was used, but suddenly, it became real. The problem was caused by improper preparation, firing a large bullet fragment into Brandon Lee's abdomen. While he was rushed to the hospital, he died just hours after surgery at age 28. What's interesting is that many people say that the Lee family was cursed not to have any offspring, and it ended after Brandon died. But what about Bruce Lee, who was a global star who saw a sudden collapse, while he didn't die performing live on stage? It was quite close to that. Bruce Lee was an actor, a martial artist, and an inspiration to millions of people in the world. He died while actively engaged in filmmaking on the 20th of July, 1973. During one of his filming sessions, one of his films was in progress. He collapsed in Hong Kong after suffering cerebral edema. Interestingly, he was only 32. In just 2 decades, the world lost a father and a child, or a family that was supposed to become the wealthiest in Hollywood. Juan Carlos Formel also experienced something he never expected. Now, this guy was a Cuban icon who lost his life mid-show. Juan died on the 26th of May, 2023, after suffering a heart attack mid-performance in the Bronx. But what exactly happened? You see, Juan collapsed while playing and never regained consciousness again. He was 59 years old, and even though he was old, he didn't seem to have any health problems. But he died anyway. Nick Menza was a drummer who saw the last beat of his own. Megadeth is easily one of the most popular metal bands, and Nick Menza is still among the top drummers the world has ever seen. He was performing with his band OHM after leaving his former band on May 21st, 2016. However, as he was performing, he suddenly collapsed on stage. There were many attempts to save the icon, but sadly, none could revive him. His death deeply affected the metal community and hundreds of thousands of his fans. But what about someone from a different industry than film and art? There, we have Silver King. Mexican wrestler and actor Silver King was in his wrestling match until he collapsed during the match on the 11th of May 2019 in London. The audience initially thought he fell because it was all scripted. But interestingly enough, he never got up. Later on, he was pronounced dead. And the reason? Well, as always, a cardiac arrest. Nothing is as sad as losing Don Brancheau, a trainer. It was the 24th of February 2010, when SeaWorld trainer Don Brancheau was killed by an orca named Tilikum during a demonstration. This whale grabbed and pulled her underwater, and the world saw her struggle. Nobody ever thought that it was just a mistake or that the orca would release her. But her death led to deep discussions on things like keeping animals in captivity and even in theme parks. Red Fox was a comedy legend who collapsed on set when no one was expecting him to. On the 11th of October, 1991, the star of Sanford and Son collapsed during rehearsal for the royal family. At first, his castmates believed he was joking. That's because it was ironically similar to a gag on his old sitcom. However, Fox had suffered a fatal heart attack while no one was expecting it. Next up is Owen Hart, who died not from a heart attack, but from something that no one expected. The WWE star Owen Hart died on the 23rd of May 1999 at the Over the Edge pay-per-view event. But what happened is something that you would never expect. The harness malfunctioned during a planned stunt, and he fell over 70 feet into the ring. Guitar hero Dimebag Darrell lost his life during a Damageplan concert in Ohio.
No guitarist Dimebag Darrell Abbott play, but just a few minutes into their first song, trouble broke out. You can see shooter Nathan Gale in a black jacket and baseball cap charging on a stage and pulling out a gun.
He was shot multiple times by a gunman who rushed the stage. But it wasn't just Dimebag who lost his life. There were actually 3 other people who were killed before the police stopped the shooter. Darrell's death remains one of the most shocking in history, regardless of how brutal it was. Christina Grimmie was a rising star who was murdered after a concert. Yes, that's the reality of Hollywood when you have enemies or haters. It happened on June 10, 2016, when singer Christina Grimmie, who was a former The Voice contestant, was greeting fans after her show in Orlando. But then an obsessed fan came in. That fan shot her. Moreover, her brother tackled the shooter, who then killed himself. Christina later died in hospital aged just 22, and the world could never see what she was capable of. Next, we have Tiny Tim, who was a ukulele legend with his final note. Tim was a famous American singer who made Tiptoe Through the Tulips. During one of his performances at a gala on the 30th of November 1996, he suddenly suffered a heart attack and died shortly afterwards. During his lifetime, his unique voice, along with a very quirky persona, made him a cultural icon. However, the world couldn't see much of him. We all love stage tricks, and Irma Bule was the epitome of such acts. She was an Indonesian singer, Irma Bule, who was known for using live cobras as stage props. But then on the 4th of April 2016, a king cobra bit her during one of the West Java shows. But she was so dedicated to her art that she refused immediate treatment, believing the snake had already been defanged. To her surprise, she collapsed shortly afterwards and died in the hospital. The Romanian metal band, Goodbye to Gravity, was quite popular in the past. On October 30th, 2015, the band held an album release show at the Collective nightclub in Bucharest.
It was eerily familiar to the 2003 fire in America at the Station nightclub in Rhode Island that killed 100. Like last night's blaze, many died because they could not escape the flames.
However, pyrotechnics suddenly set the insulation on fire, causing a catastrophic fire. 64 people died, including 4 band members. This tragedy is still in the hearts of hundreds of thousands of fans, and it also triggered a nationwide demand for safer venues. Papa Wemba was a music legend who fell on stage and died. He was a Congolese music pioneer who collapsed mid-performance during his festival in the Ivory Coast. He was 66 and considered one of the most influential artists across Africa. Even though he got aid immediately, he just couldn't be revived. Costa Titch was a South African rapper and dancer who suffered a similar fate. Teach collapsed twice during his set at Ultra South Africa in Johannesburg. Although he could have survived the first fall, the second one proved fatal. People say that he could have had a seizure, but no official cause was ever confirmed. He was also one of South Africa's rising stars. KK, one of India's most beloved voices, died on the 31st of May 2022. He collapsed during a live concert in Kolkata. At first, He was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead later. The cause of his death was cardiac arrest. His death not only devastated millions of people from around the world, but also made many international singers who respected him sad. Then we have Lillian Harden Armstrong's legendary performance, which would also be her last. She was a jazz pianist and composer, also the former wife of Louis Armstrong. One day, Lillian was performing at a televised tribute concert on the 27th of August 1971. But during her performance, she suffered a heart attack and collapsed at the piano. She died on the way to the hospital, and her final moments were spent honoring the man whose career she boosted to the maximum level. Dick Shawn was a comedian whose life turned tragic. It was the 17th of April 1987, when actor and comedian Dick Shawn collapsed on stage during his comedic routine. This happened in UC San Diego. This guy was known for his extreme humor, so after he fell to the ground during the bit that involved him joking, the audience assumed that it was just part of his act, and they waited for him to get up with awkward silence. However, he didn't. Only several minutes into his act did the staff realize that he was in cardiac arrest. At 63, he died shortly after collapsing. Next, we have Sib Hashian, another drummer who collapsed mid-beat and never woke up. He was on his classic rock cruise at the age of 67, as he was still actively playing while giving fans nostalgic performances of the music. During the performance, he collapsed mid-set and could not wake up. He had reportedly been battling kidney cancer, which made his death quite hurtful for the audience who were watching. Juan Johnny Walker Jumalan suffered a fate that no one would ever want to suffer.
A radio host in the Philippines has been killed during a live broadcast. Juan Hulaman, known as DJ Johnny Walker, was live streaming his program on Facebook.
It was the 5th of November 2023, when Filipino radio host Juan was broadcasting live from his home studio in Misamis Occidental. Two men arrived, pretending to request help finding their lost property. However, one staff member held him at gunpoint while the other entered the booth and shot him twice. This whole incident was being broadcast live on TV, making the viewers shocked at what they were seeing. French singer Barbara Weldons was only 35 when she died on July 19, 2017. This happened during the live show at a festival in southern France, when she accidentally stepped on electrical equipment and was electrocuted to death. Her death shocked the French music world because she had just released her debut album and was considered one of the most promising songwriters. Colonel Bruce Hampton was a musical pioneer who faced his final bow while collapsing on stage mid-performance. On May 1, 2017, the legendary jam band Figure collapsed, and fans thought that it was his famously unpredictable comedic theoretics. After some time, they realized that there was something wrong, and the world lost him. Another rising star was lost too soon, and it was Valencia Prime. It was the 12th of September 2022, when Philadelphia drag performer Valencia Prime, who was known as the plus-size dancing diva, collapsed while hosting her event at Taboo Lounge. She never regained any consciousness, and doctors later determined that it was her cardiovascular disease. She was only 25 and left the entire community behind her, devastated. And then we have Pedro Henrique, who was a guitarist living on stage. In March 2023, Pedro collapsed mid-performance at a famous festival in Sao Paulo. It was only 39 years old and had already captivated the entire audience with its skills. After collapsing, he was sent to the hospital, but he could never regain consciousness. Doctors later confirmed it was a heart attack. Carl Walenda was performing a high-wire walk between the towers of Condado Plaza Hotel in Puerto Rico. At 73, he was playing with fire while performing stunts that most younger people couldn't do. But here's what happened. Strong winds came and shook the wire that day. Even though he was near the line, he suddenly lost his balance and plunged to his death. This moment was recorded on camera, and even though it wasn't shown on live TV, Steve Irwin was the crocodile hunter, and one day he was filming for Ocean's Deadliest on the Great Barrier Reef. but something strange happened on September 4th, 2006, when, as he followed an 8-foot stingray, the animal unexpectedly struck upward with its barb. It was quite a rare but defensive reaction. But here's where it gets dark. The barb destroyed Irwin's chest and passed directly through his heart. Mitsuharu Misawa was a wrestling legend who lost his life in the ring. He was considered one of the greatest professional wrestlers in history. During a bout, Misawa took a suplex, which is one of the countless moves he had already endured during his decades. He responded in the ring and did not respond to his partner. Even as medical staff rushed in, they quickly realized that nothing could bring him back, not even the CPR. Finally, the second-last entry on the list is Tommy Cooper. The comedian's joke wasn't a joke. Rather, it was his demise. During one of his shows, he suddenly grabbed his chest and collapsed backwards. Since his whole thing was comedy, the world didn't realize that the poor man was suffering. He died of a heart attack on live TV. At number 1, we have Lee Morgan, a popular jazz trumpeter. He was performing live at the club named Suggs in New York City. During a break between sets, he was tragically shot on stage by his wife and died almost instantly. Imagine being killed by your wife in front of dozens of people. That is what Lee Morgan faced. And with that, our list ends. Let us know which one hurt you the most. If you want more videos like this, please subscribe to our channel and ring the bell icon for more.